In this video, I want to talk about a secret, and I am going to call it a secret, that almost all successful people share. From Beethoven to Lady Gaga to Bill Gates to Dan Brown, pretty much all of them. The reason I'm calling it a secret is that this has nothing to do with a person's personality, and that is very often what self-help gurus focus on when they give advice of how to become successful. Now, of course, this is also something I normally focus on, but this is really important, and I feel that this is often overlooked. It is really, and I think the reason it's overlooked because we have this idea in our minds that success stems from the individual. It's the person's own fault. You can only ascribe a person's success to the way he or she is, their personality, etc. Now, what got me onto this was a few years ago I heard that Beethoven wrote 722 compositions throughout his lifetime. Most of them, the vast majority of these, were not liked by in his time, and the vast majority are also completely forgotten today. There's only a few that we know of today, and the point is, of course, that he simply produced so much that had he stopped after the first 10 or 20 compositions, that would have been the end of the story, probably, highly likely. But he didn't, and now pretty much every single person alive knows who he is. Here's another interesting statistics for you. Did you know that on average, this is just an average, on average, every successful entrepreneur has, this is a statistical average, mind you, every successful entrepreneur has 10 failed businesses behind them. 10 failed businesses on average. Now, this morning I read an article. The article was basically about what you can learn from failures in life, how you can basically get something out of failing instead of just beating yourself up or being disappointed with yourself or something like that. And the author of the article had like a brief little interview with Mark Cuban, Bill Gates, Sir Richard Branson, and a couple of other successful entrepreneurs. And they all said, well, they were happy they failed because they learned so much from their failures. But I think, and of course there's something to it. Of course, when you start out launching your first business, you don't know a thing about how to run a business. And I went through that, But honestly, I think they're missing something here. I think because we live in a society that tends to favor this myth, and I am going to call it a myth because there is scientific evidence that success is really not always about the individual. It's about being at the right place at the right time and having the ability to execute. So all these successful people, of course, they want to ascribe their success to their personalities, to who they are as individuals. I'm sorry, I'm going to remove myself from my AC unit here. It's making a little noise. But what I really want to stress here is the fact that something else all these people have in common, and they don't even realize it. Maybe some of them do, but that's not what we're talking about in this article. But what they have in common is that they've launched so many businesses throughout their lifetime. Most of them failed, but the ones that didn't made them billionaires. So I can really only stress the importance of this realization. Like if you're capable of just keep putting things out there, just keep at it, keep going, don't stop, sooner or later you will hit the jackpot. And keep that statistics in mind. For every single successful entrepreneur, they have on average 10 failed businesses or ventures or product launches or whatever it may be behind them. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should just keep producing and putting things out there, and if nothing happens, move on to the next thing. Well, that is, in a sense, that is what I'm saying. But of course, don't be naive. You can have the best idea in the world, but in this day and age, you need to make an effort to make your product, service, art, whatever it is, to make it known. You need to at least show it to a sample group and you make sure 1,000 people have seen it. If no one from this sample group of 1,000 people are interested in it, then it's probably time to move on to the next thing. But that's the thing. Keep this in mind. Just think about it. Why are the billionaires billionaires? Well, I'm not talking about old money who inherited and invested, or bankers and those kind of people. I'm talking about self-made men and women, entrepreneurs that, you know, the entrepreneurs that we hear about this very much, pretty much treated as the modern heroes today. But of course, they have no interest in telling you that, you know, I was just lucky with the 15th product I launched. Finally, there was a jackpot. But maybe in actuality, that's actually how it is. Maybe that is exactly what happened with Virgin, Coke, or, you know, whatever it may be. But it's just a really, really, really interesting and completely overlooked point, is you simply just need to keep putting things out there. I've had many businesses over the years. Most of them were complete failures. Not failures in the sense that I was ruined and lost all my money, but just failures in the sense that, you know, combination of I didn't have the skills to launch it proper, and the product and service I was trying to launch just didn't have a place in the world. At least not right now. And you know, you just have to embrace it. Doesn't mean that you're a fool, or that you had a bad idea or anything like that. It just means that the market wasn't ready for your idea. Now, what else is there to focus on here? Well, first of all, you cannot just produce junk, right? You have to produce ideas that are new, and you also have to not be afraid to put them out there. I actually did another video on the ability to execute, about the importance of just execute. You really have to be able to execute on your ideas. Otherwise, they'll be stuck in your drawer. And honestly, I think most people have a misconception about what makes an idea good, profitable, viable. And because they think it's like, oh, if it's a brilliant idea, if it's genius came up with it, you know, it's gonna have a place in the world. But the fact of the matter is that other people have tried to launch Uber-like services, and other people have tried to launch social media, and it's really hard to define sometimes what made Uber stand out, what made Facebook stand out, what made Instagram stand out. And of course, it's not, you know, it's not possible to determine the answer to that question until you put your idea out there. Maybe it'll spread like a wildfire. That's what we're hoping for. Maybe it won't, in which case you'll simply just move on. Now, let me just give you a tiny little example of what I'm talking about here from my own life. I used to follow the author dream. I really wanted to be a writer, a full-time writer, and making a living off of that. And I would write. I was working on some novels, but I was also writing these little short stories, and I had like 10 or 12 lying on my computer. And I came in touch. I was being put in touch with this lady, and she needed to purchase a bundle of short stories for some compilation of novels she was collecting. And she told me, oh, can you send me some of your short stories? And I sent her 8 or 9 or so. And she really loved one of them. Another one she liked enough to put it in there, but the rest of them, she didn't like them. And it's just a good example, because the ones she liked, those weren't my first novels. Let me just put it that way. I'm sorry, my first short stories. But it just goes to demonstrate that, and actually she ended up buying, so she asked me, but how about you write a new one? So I wrote a new one. She didn't like that one either. I wrote another one. She didn't like that one either. Then I wrote a third one, and she liked that one. So we ended up, you know, closing the deal. I got like $1,500 or so for these 3 short stories. But just think about it. Like, if I had just written the first 4 or 5 short stories and people didn't like them, and then I would have just quit, I would have never sold any short stories. Now, of course, my dreams have changed a little bit. I'm not aiming to become a full-time author anymore, but maybe in my old days, I don't know. But I'm just saying, my point is that productivity, and don't don't, you know, even though you put your soul into the work you're doing when you're, you know, coming up with new ideas, new businesses, new products, new pieces of art, new works of art, you know, don't be insulted just because they're not embraced by the public. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that the market is the market, and in order to live off of something, it needs to be embraced by the market. And that's just not always feasible for various circumstances. Now, that's all I have for you right now. I do want to encourage you, please subscribe, press the little bell icon. I am gonna make more consistent videos, and I really actually have some great treats for you in the future. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.